Destined Rivals is the last mainline set of the Scarlet and Violet era, and it includes some of the most incredible art ever released in the TCG from a range of artists, both new and old. Whether you love the wonderful, varied illustration rares of the era, or you like to go after the heavy hitters with more chase special illustration rares than most, this set really does have something for everyone. So forgive my pun as we prepare for trouble and make it a double dose of nostalgia. Let's take the cards out of the binder and do a deep dive into the art and artists of Destined Rivals.
All right, our first card, we're just going to go in order here, is this Yanma by artist Ayako Ozaki. And they are a new artist to the TCG that you can tell, they got a really cute style here. Kind of reminds me of like the lo-fi art um, playlist covers, you know what I mean? Like if you see them on YouTube or whatever, it's like, lo-fi beats to study to or whatever. They kind of give me that vibe in their illustration style. And like I said, they're a new artist to the TCG, starting with Surging Sparks. And in Destined Rivals, they actually have a larger connected art series with 6 of the common slash uncommon whatever cards. And I'm not quite sure if this card connects to it. It almost seems like it does, but it doesn't line up perfectly anywhere. But this is a really, really cute way to start off the secret rares of the set. So good use of reflection, and I'm trying to get it to show up there with the puddles or the raindrops in the rain. That's or in the water. That's pretty cool, right? Almost shines a little bit. Then jumping right into one of the better cards of the set with this Cynthia's Roserade from artist Rika. I really like this artist style as well. They, have kind of a very shoujo manga art style, and that really shows here, especially with the Cynthia. So just look at, Cynthia drawn through that lens in this card, and it really does seem like kind of like a 90s shoujo manga character there. But Rika is a artist with a lot of great illustration rares and cards, even in Pokemon Pocket. I think their style kind of fits well with trainers. So, this card almost could have been a special illustration rare as opposed to an illustration rare. The extra texture would have done it wonders, but you can kind of see here it's one of my favorite cards of the set for sure. So another, and this will be a common refrain you'll hear me say throughout this video, another relatively new artist to the TCG with this Shaman, with artist Heisuke Kitazawa. And, they've only illustrated so far a Gossifleur and an Oricorio common card, at least as at the time of creating this Shaman. So in Stellar Crown and Surging Sparks, and then this Shaman comes along. It's a really, really good card. It was actually, one of the more expensive ones to get in the beginning of trying to hunt this master set. And they have a really, really cute, fairy tale illustration style, which is one of the common artist types, I guess, that the Pokemon TCG tends to draw from. And I really think that this Shaman matches that style really well. Later on, after this set, they did a Maractus for Black Bolt. I don't want to show off too many of the future cards because we're a little behind on making these videos, but the Shaman and the Maractus from Black Bolt really, really make a nice set together here for this artist. Okay, so we won't spend too much time on this one, this Crustle, our arch nemesis, from artist Takumi Wada, because there is another card from this artist in the set later down the line, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that card. But just one of the things I love most about this is the perspective used here. So like the perspective of looking down at the Pokemon, it really minimizes the subject. That's a perspective technique that artists use to minimize the subject, make them, add a sense of smallness to the subject. And it makes a lot of sense here, right? For Crustle, I think anyway. Just kind of cute, very intimidating, like, hey, don't hurt me type of thing. And interestingly, we'll talk about the exact opposite perspective technique used when we get to their next card. So next up is this really awesome Team Rocket's Spidops, and just aesthetically, this is one of the coolest looking cards in the set. Now the artist NC Empire, I'm a little unsure. I think it's just a company, kind of like Five Bond or whatever, and not a single artist. It could just be how they do their website to make it seem like they're a company, for marketing reasons or whatever. But I do believe this is multiple artists working under the name NC Empire as sort of a graphic design company or whatever. They've illustrated other cards before, like the Thievel and Crown Zenith, which matches the aesthetic of this card most closely. They also did the Houndoom and Brilliant Stars, the Loudred, that kind of thing. And you can see the differences there, but also similarities. So this is a great card. One of, like I said, the most visually striking on a page in the set. Pretty cool action shot there, and great use of color, limited color, to really establish sort of an intimidating little spider there. So the artist of this next card we have talked about before. This is the Hydrapple from artist Jerky. The first card they ever illustrated was the Luminion from Crown Zenith, which is, one of my favorite cards of all time. So I am partial to this artist. And this Hydrapple is a great looking card, awesome, dynamic little, I guess, attack shot of Hydrapple, and great flat use of color, which is common with Jerky's style. They don't typically outline their art very heavily, so to me it gives off sort of a mosaic vibe, which I appreciate and like a lot. That's, I guess, more apparent in like the Dragapult from Prismatic. But they also did like the Cetitan, which is a great looking card and has, similar flat colors to this. The Pidgey from Obsidian Flames is a little bit of a departure, but still a great, you know, set of cards. They did the Tropius, which matches this one pretty well. But yeah, good addition to the set. Lots of grass Pokemon in the set. All right, so this Rapidash is remembering here from the comments of the Master Set video. I think a lot of people really, really love this card. I'll fully admit it doesn't quite hit for me. I wish the subject was a little bit more zoomed out, but still beautifully illustrated from artist Rond. And they've also done the Cerulege from Surging Sparks, a really good Giratina from Pokemon Pocket. But they are, and we'll talk about this a few times with some of these artists, they won a Judges Award in the 2022 illustration contest. And that's common for a lot of the artists in this set getting their start there. I love the soft blur effect on this Rapidash. Like I said, I do think the composition could have benefited a little bit from being zoomed out, but it is still a great illustration. So from one of the more experienced artists, this Ethan's Typhlosion from artist Ghidorah. They debuted back in the Sword and Shield era and have done a boatload of the Trainer Gallery cards, like, the Charizard, the Boltund. They did the Growlithe and Perrin, connecting art cards, which are fantastic. They did the Pikachu SIR, the Lycanroc from Journey Together. They'll continue to knock it out of the park with, cards in the TCG, and this is a great one. I love all the action lines. It's very manga, very, exciting. Would be a great panel in like a shonen battle manga, And this card actually is probably the most action-packed card. Like, I've gushed about them before with how good they are with like expressions, like with the Pikachu and the Perrin and the Growlithe and stuff. And this one's a little bit of a departure there. Very exciting card. All right, so next up is the Team Rocket's Houndoom, which I know is a lot of people's favorite card in the set. So this is from artist Nagamiso, and they are the mangaka for Izumi and the Dragon Book. Actually, interestingly, like the first two cards they ever illustrated in the TCG are like super high impact and have climbed in value, especially recently with the Team Aqua Kyogre and the Team Magma Groudon, the little pair. So some of the earliest, I guess, like illustration rare slash special illustration rare slash alt art, whatever you want to call them, in the TCG. But after that, they didn't illustrate for multiple years. They returned in Burning Shadows and illustrated a lot of notable cards since. So they did 3 of the Paradox Pokemon SIRs from Temporal Forces. Some of their cards, like those Paradox cards, can like give off a really cool retro futurism style, sort of like No Man's Sky. I think I've mentioned that before in some previous videos. Um, and then they've got other cards with like a watercolor style, like the Armarouge, the Rabska, the Pecharunt illustration rare. But like this Houndoom, kind of a third style they employ is this very classic like comic book, like American comic book with super dynamic action shots, the cool movement lines. Um, and you kind of see that in the Raikou or the Jolteon or the Blaziken, but also here, just a really cool perspective. A lot of the Team Rocket cards show off like a different side of Team Rocket, like they're looking lovingly at their Pokemon. Not this one. They're both looking pretty cool and like bad guys. Next up is the Blaziken. I mean, it's just hit after hit after hit in this set. It really is. Like everything is so good. Even if I say something semi-critical, just know that I love every one of these cards. But this is from artist Kodama, illustrator of like the Crown Zenith Samurott, which is a great card, the Calyrex from Chilling Reign, the Ogerpon promo, and those are all slightly different from each other, right? Which I love to see from an artist. And they've another long, long time artist. They've illustrated close to, if not over, 100 cards since the XY era. They did like the Chin-Pao SIR or the Lilligant from Astral Radiance. Just really, really good cards. The Chin-Pao is one of my favorites, actually. That set was, Paldea Evolved was kind of special to me. I love that set, and that's one of my favorite cards in it. So you can kind of see like some common storybook illustration style themes in cards like that Samurott or the Virizion or the Calyrex, very atmospheric forest settings of a Pokemon, I don't know, like Hansel and Gretel vibes, that kind of thing. So that's right up my alley. This card doesn't show that, but it's still, I mean, can't go wrong with an awesome shot of Blaziken, Fire Chicken doing, the move on the card, right? All right, so no surprise, we're going to spend a little bit of extra time on this card because this might be the best card in the set. I think it's going to be one that absolutely stands the test of time, probably uh, continues to climb in value if value is your thing, just like the Misty's Starmie or whatever from Astral Radiance. But this is from artist Okacheke, who is another artist who got their start in the illustration contest. They got a judges award in 2018 for a Slowpoke illustration, but they began like officially contributing to the TCG with Chilling Reign, and since then, they've done almost 70 cards, so like a very frequent contributor, something new almost every set, if not every set. They also did some concept artwork for like some Pokemon animated shorts, so they get involved in other ways as well. But yeah, I have like a soft spot for some of the early Scarlet and Violet era cards he's done, like the Mabostiff or the Orthworm or the Penny. So, lots of cards that I'm fond of from this artist. Everyone's familiar with like the 151 Mr. Mime, and they've recently done some connecting art cards, um, like with the Plusle and the Minun. But more notably, connecting art wise, the Latios and Latias from Surging Sparks that everybody loves, for good reason. Jumping ahead to the future here, past Destined Rivals, the Oshawott from White Flare kind of gives off similar vibes to this card. You know what I mean? And I don't know, like they've done a lot of great cards, and still this one might be the best they've ever done. I love it so much. I think it's no surprise everybody does. Just the composition here is so unique. It's just so different from what we normally see with a focus on a Pokemon and a trainer, right? I just really, really like that Misty is underwater, like swimming more effectively than dopey little Psyduck there, who looks like he's barely keeping himself afloat. And it's just a really creative illustration that does a lot more than just show off the Pokemon or the trainer, right? It just really combines them into something super cool. I love this card. I think all of you guys do too, right? So, and sticking with the Misty theme, this Misty's Lapras is another fantastic card, right? It's from artist Orca. They're another new artist. They debuted in English with Temporal Forces and that awesome Lickitung. I believe their first card in Japanese, though, was the Bulbasaur that we got in English in Stellar Crown. So we just got it later than Japanese, just releases out of order sometimes as far as what these artists do. But that's a, a huge impact card to deal or to debut with in the TCG, right? Is that Bulbasaur. So they also recently did the Tepig from White Flare. So they've got a very, very clean illustration style. A cool focus on storytelling, right? Like, especially in that Bulbasaur and the Lickitung, you can really see the story they're trying to tell with one simple illustration. And I think this Lapras doesn't tell as clear a story other than like setting a great scene, but it has, just incredible color balance. It puts off this awesome, relaxing beach vibe really perfectly, right? I mean, I love the footprints in the sand. I love that Misty is just chilling while, maybe you imagine Lapras is looking out to sea protecting Misty or just relaxing itself or whatever, but just a great card. I love the soft focus of the fern or whatever type of plant that is in the foreground there. Just great, great composition. Rule of thirds with Misty, just awesome card. Can't say enough good things about it. All right, so this is where you guys are going to hear my bias come out with this Clam Pearl. This is from artist Mori Yu, and another very new artist to the TCG. And again, with a lot of these new artists, they're being trusted with more illustration rare cards than like regular cards, which is pretty cool. So this artist has like a very busy style, lots of line work, lots of detail crammed into her cards, but they never like lose focus, which I appreciate. And this Clamperl is like very much in that vein, right? It's like the Laleep or the Kecleon they've also illustrated, where there's just this tremendous detail. And the obvious vibe, that this Clamperl gives off, I think, is right. Everyone can agree this is like Ariel in her secret grotto from The Little Mermaid, or at least that's the vibe it gives me. Crammed full of all the who's its and what's its and all that kind of stuff. It's just, it's coral in this card instead of dingle hoppers. But I am obviously super partial to underwater illustration rares. And like this, and what, again, jumping ahead here, but the Clawitzer from Mega Evolution, they're cards that I have extras of, right, to go in my underwater binder. They also illustrated this really awesome Dragonite from Pokemon Pocket. I wish that was a real card, but this is, fully acknowledging the bias, one of my favorite cards from the set. I don't know that it like fits in with the set super thematically, but to me, it's one of the best illustrations in the set. Again, with my biases though, is this Electrike. So we'll talk about the meme of the card as well, but Nakamori Upon, the artist of this card, they are my favorite new artist in the TCG. So if you watched the last video, I know it's been a while since I did it, but I spent a good amount of time like rambling about Nakamori Upon and how much I love their art. So I'm not going to rehash that too much here, like their art outside of Pokemon, I mean. But a staple in both their Pokemon art and their personal art is this like small Pokemon or this small animal amongst a large amount of like very detailed vegetation. I love it. And this Electrike, like I said, it kind of became a meme. I at least saw Deep Pocket Monster making the jokes, and I'm sure others did too, about how it looks like Electrike is going to the bathroom here, kind of pooping in the grass. And I have seen some people do like binder collections or little sub collections of Pokemon going to the bathroom or whatever, which is pretty funny. I regardless though, I love this card. Again, jumping ahead here, but like Nakamura Pond got the underwater Pokemon treatment after this with the Basculin from White Flare. And that was legitimately a chase card of the set, just like this Electrike was a chase card of the set for me just because of the artist. So that's my favorite thing about this type of video that we get to do is that, you know, sometimes it doesn't have to be the most popular Pokemon. Sometimes it doesn't have to be like the greatest illustration or whatever. Sometimes just a little part of a card or a little part of an artist style can really speak to you. And that can become one of the most important cards for you to get. So when Phantasmal Flame rolls around, the Nimble from Nakamori Upon is gonna be one of my chase cards. Like I can't wait to pull it or buy it or whatever. I hope Nakamori Upon has an illustration rare or a special illustration rare in every new set that comes out. Like I really want to see what they do with a special illustration rare one day. Just love them. Can't say enough good things. And I know that's me ranting for a long time about an Electrike, which, maybe I'm the only one who cares about, but that's kind of the point of this video, right? Maybe you have an artist that you love just as much who other people don't appreciate as much. So again, with this pretty cool Rotom here, Rotom has got quite a lot of illustration rares lately. Or not lately, but just throughout the TCG. But this is from artist Kayama. They're a pretty new artist. They, illustrated the Chansey from 151. They illustrate that, like, that was the start, I think, of their Pokemon career. But they've illustrated a bunch more cards for Pokemon Pocket than the actual TCG. So like their style is pretty consistent across all their cards, but they also have done a panoramic or like connecting art set of cards on Pocket that I love because it includes an awesome primate. But they have a very cute style, especially with like the chibi art in the SIR Clive from Paldean Fates that they did. So I love that card, obviously. This Rotom, it's fun. It's honestly a little reminiscent of the Lost Origin alt art of Rotom. So, we're getting another Rotom with an SIR in Phantasmal Flames. We pulled that in Inferno X in a couple videos back, so that's pretty cool. But lots of Rotom love, right? I think I probably prefer the Lost Origin one to this card, but it is, they give off similar but different vibes, trying to do different things. This one's quite a bit cuter, right? So I'm excited to see what else this artist, Taigo Kayama, produces in the future. So speaking of a card I really like, this is the Team Rocket's Orbital from artist Hyogo Nosuke, and I really like it. I really like it a lot. The illustration is great. The scene is funny. It fits right in for this particular set. Again, a lot of the Team Rocket's cards don't show Team Rocket as being like intimidating or even bumbling. Different, I guess, personality traits they've had in different media before. But I like the different ways they show off Team Rocket and their partner Pokemon in this set. This artist in particular is kind of a bit of a victim of their own prior success, right? Because every time they illustrate a new card, they've got a lot to live up to. They were also the artist for like the Legendary Bird Stained Glass promo that is just incredible, like a staple card of the TCG. The Sleeping Tyranitar, one of my favorite cards of Sword and Shield. The Leafeon VMAX alt art from Evolving Skies. A ton of great gallery cards. Bunch of recent illustration rares. Just another prolific artist in both the TCG and also in Pokemon Pocket, which, I mentioned Pokemon Pocket just because, they are Pokemon cards. They're just not physically released, which is a bummer. But anyway, the Mew there in Pokemon Pocket from this artist is kind of iconic. I think they're like a very prolific professional freelance illustrator. They have been for a long time. And somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this artist was the one who got the job of starting the trend of doing a set of 9 connected art cards that are released like across an era, right? So like I know connected art cards have existed before, but the Pokemon Company I think is doing a thing where every year now they do one set of connecting art cards that release across multiple sets. And Hugo Nosuke, had one of those connecting art sets. So this is another great card, great addition to their repertoire. I love the searchlights. Looking good. So this Wheezing here from artist Yukihiro Tada is a cool card. Like the artist, they've got a very distinctive style. Honestly, this card here is kind of a bit of a departure from it because of the trainer being involved as well. I love that cross-hatching shadow behind the trainer. I know that's a weird detail to love. See if I can get it to show up there a little bit. But I just love the personality of the card, right? I don't think Wheezing is a Pokemon that you imagine being like lovingly looked at by their trainer very often, right? You know what I mean? But you can see Petrol here like really likes his partner Pokemon, kind of admiring him. And you can see with their other illustrations, they all fit very well together thematically with like this like really wonderful like cartoon style, thick lines, solid colors, Pokemon's front and center. I hope they release like 3 to 7, depending on 9-page or 12-page binder in that exact style. I think it would make a great theme binder page, like the Executor for Mega Evolution, the Alolan Dug Trio. They have like those cards fit together really well. So like I said, this one doesn't fit with the artist's other cards, but it is still a great illustration. They also did all of the stained glass Ogrepods from Prismatic Evolutions, which are, they're not the most fun to pull because they aren't the evolutions in that set, but they are a beautiful set of cards. And so is this one. So next up is this Murkrow, which I believe is from the most tenured artist in who designed a card for this particular set with Akira Komayama. They're like an artist dating all the way back to 2010. They have over 250 Pokemon cards illustrated, like just a crazy body of work, right? And this Murkrow is one of my favorite cards in the set. I don't think that's a surprise to anybody. It's a really cool card. It's like a fantastic example of how like some of the best cards don't have to be like super prohibitively expensive. You know what I mean? As at the time I'm recording this, I think this card is $10, and thematically it fits in super well with this set, but also other modern cards across other sets, like the Persian from Shrouded Fable, the Meowth from this set. So Komayama recently, they also did this fun subset of illustrations of Pokemon with like their arms folded, like the Palafin, the Gimmighoul, and the Goldengo. They all have like the Pokemon's front and center with their arms folded. I thought that was cute. But they're most well known for, I think, the Starmie from Astral Radiance, which we've already talked about once in this video. Another card there that demonstrate that they were the right choice for a card in Destined Rivals when, partner Pokemon were coming back. And, other notable cards from this artist include like the Deoxys VMAX from Crown Zenith, a great card, the Genesect from Fusion Strike, the Galarian Zapdos from Chilling Reign, the Gengar from Lost Origin. They did the Miriam in Scarlet and Violet base, which for a while I think was the chase card of that set. I think it got overtaken or whatever by the Gardevoir as far as value goes, which is how I kind of determine chase cards. But it's just they're a great versatile artist with like a fun like anime style, great control of color and lighting here, especially in this card. I mean, like the city atmosphere of it like really makes it stand out on the page. You know what I mean? It's like a great nighttime scene, but it's bright. It's really cool. I love the little like vaporwave moon up in the corner there. I just, what a cool way to illustrate a nighttime scene. All right, so here's that Zamazenta, which is also illustrated by Takumi Wada. So we're going to go a little bit more in depth about Takumi Wada on this one. So Takumi Wada spent 10 years, we talked about this in the previous video, as an illustrator at Nintendo, most notably like as the main illustrator for the Legend of Zelda series, right? So like the super iconic main title illustration for Breath of the Wild was him, for example. And he retired in 2019 from that work and has since done like occasional illustrations for Pokemon cards, right? And this Zamazenta is, so I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant here. This Zamazenta is actually a callback to the Zacian he illustrated for the 2022 online illustration exhibition that you see here. And he's also referenced another illustration he did for that event, which the Gardevoir was done for the event. And he did a Gallade full art in Pokemon Pocket, right? So, at the risk of putting my foot in my mouth here, I'm going to predict that the other card he did for the illustration exhibition was a Dragonite. So I think for the Mega Dragonite set that's coming out, I bet they have Takumi Wada illustrate a Mega Dragonite illustration rare or special illustration rare. And I bet it references that online exhibition card, maybe in layout or whatever. But I think that's pretty cool. That's like my little Nostradamus prediction for the video anyway. So I really like this Zamazenta. I think it's a shame we may never get that companion Zacian, right? It would be cool. But I like his use of like the worm's eye perspective trick here to make like the Zamazenta appear larger. Like we're way, way down there perspective wise checking out Zamazenta. And it really helps make Zamazenta appear, bigger, more intimidating, more grandiose, right? And kind of uses the same technique with like Hydreigon or Aegislash, some other cards he's done. But just a really wonderful, versatile, professional artist who has like a super distinct visual style. Like I think more people have seen art from this artist than probably any other artist who did a card for this set, just by virtue of everybody knowing that Breath of the Wild title illustration. You know what I mean? So like, even if you didn't know you had seen Takumi Wata's art before, you have, which I think is pretty cool. So we got another artist with 2 cards in the set with this Team Rocket's Eradicate from artist Mikayu. This is a really cool card. I like it when a relatively like uncommon Pokemon gets the illustration rare treatment. I don't think like people were clamoring for Eradicate to get some love in the illustration rare category, right? Um, but you know, filling in a Kanto illustration rare binder is a common thing that people try to do, right? So I think everybody's pretty happy with this, that they get to throw this in the binder. But the Caillou has like a really cool storybook style, lots of really thick lines, you know, lots of flat colors, which, you know, I love. Don't have to shade everything or shadow everything. I mean, the background here is super well shadowed, but I mean the characters in the foreground, right? But you know, I got some flack for ranking the Slack Off and the Drampa. They did pretty low in our last ranking video. So I'm actually excited to do another updated version of that soon to see if my opinions have like changed or settled over time, because I'm just going to do it fresh. I think that'll be fun. But yeah, they got a very cute style. Also like the Delibird and the Snorlax from Pocket, the Shelmet from White Flare. They all like, you know, you can tell this artist's work when you see it, and I look forward to more from them. So again, a newer artist trusted with like a very important card in the set. This is from artist Shimara Tsukichi, this Team Rocket's Meowth, and this is their first, you know, major illustration rare contribution. And you know, what a way to knock it out of the park, right? This is like I said, one of the iconic cards of the set, one you can't really risk getting wrong, since Meowth is so integrated with Team Rocket, you know, so associated with Team Rocket. But the atmosphere is just really cool here. Again, another one of those things where it's like, you know, Giovanni's supposed to be the villain, the big bad. And here he is, like, watching his cat. You know what I mean? Like, not in an intimidating way, in a funny way. It almost reminds me like of like the art from Spy Family. If you watch Spy Family or read Spy Family, you know, just that's how the character of Giovanni is drawn up there to me. But I really like this, like juxtaposing the peaceful scenes with this super evil organization, right? And their Pokemon. It's just funny to me. So they have a few more cards they've done since this, but we'll save those for the future videos so we don't spoil it too much. Okay, right back into artist Mikayu with this Kangaskhan, and I'm gonna go on a small rant, right? Um, but let's just focus on the Kangaskhan. So I'm going to fully admit again that I am biased here, but Kangaskhan has always been like one of my favorite Pokemon. I was obsessed as a kid with the Safari Zone, as a you know when I was playing Red and Blue. So the whole like Safari Zone section of the Pokedex, the Kanto Pokedex, it just scratches this part of my like childhood wonder and imagination that like not much else in the Pokemon space does, right? It's like this super unique biosphere that really exists in my head, even though I know it's like a fake thing from a video game. But anyway, like since I was 16 and got my driver's license, I've always like named my cars after Pokemon. I know that's weird, but my first little Jeep that I got, her name was Kangaskhan, and I miss her. So had a ugly gray, green, brown Jeep, and her name was Kangaskhan. But like the Quagsire cameo here is super cute, and composition wise, like I really love the use of perspective here, especially with the road ends not in a vanishing point, but flat, like in a vanishing point in the horizon, but like flat to a little like shack or hut or whatever that is back there. You know, the scale of Kangaskhan is great. It just really like it pulls you in to the hominess of this scene, right? And I think the earthy color palette here was like the perfect choice. This whole, you know, mixture of nature and town, that's always a great thing to explore in art. And again, I know I'm getting a little highbrow when I'm talking about a shiny cardboard kid's Pokemon, you know, cartoon animal card, but like, you know, I just love it. The scene, it could be like early morning, it could be late evening, you know, you don't know. You're waking up for the day or going home for the night. Just, you know, maybe they're saying goodbye to each other, maybe they're saying good morning to each other. Just it's one of my favorite cards of the set. It's like also one of the first cards any of us ever saw from the set. So if you're like super plugged in online, this card leaked I think first of any card in Destined Rivals. So I anticipated it for a good long time, and I'm super glad it exists. All right, finishing up our illustration rares. This is Arvin's Greedent from artist Natsumi Yoshida. They're another relatively new artist to the TCG, less than 20 cards total, which, seems weird to say. 20 cards is a lot, but they got some really great work overall. They're like a working commercial artist, right? So they have an illustration collection published as a book, all that kind of stuff. The Greedent here is really cute, and like Yoshida's typical illustration style is a great fit, I think, especially for trainer Pokemon cards. Like I really, really love the Toxel promo card they illustrated. No trainer there, but it's just, a great style. And everyone loves them mainly for bearing in the lead here a little bit, but the Mew SIR from 151 that was released in English as the promo for the UPC, but like it's one of the best cards of the past few years, right? That Mew is. So after this set, they also did like the Minccino from Black Bolt. We'll definitely get some more illustration rares in the future from this artist. The Greedent and Arven card here really sells Arven's personality a little bit more in like a playful way than the game might portray Arven to be, but it is very cute, right? And you may have also seen their art if you play Pocket with Blissey, but just a great artist. This one again might not be so thematically integrated with like the Team Rocket side of things here, but a wonderful trainer Pokemon card showing off the relationship between trainer and Pokemon really well. All right, let's look at some special illustration rares, shall we? So, another new artist in the TCG, or relatively new anyway, is Tanji Matsuno with this Yanmega EX. Just look at the shine on those eyes. But they first did a card in Obsidian Flames with the Frogadier, and which gives off like super similar vibes to the Heliolisk they ultimately illustrated, the illustration rare there. And most recently, again, fast forwarding a little bit here, they did the Krokorok from Black Bolt, the Steelix from Mega Evolution that so many of you guys love and have commented to say it's your favorite card on the Mega Evolution Master Set video. So, a well-loved artist, but a new one. There's a pretty cool like frenetic sense of motion in this card, right? It's like this is a jet, baby, like, flying through. Scary bug, right? I don't think it's like the most impressive of the SIRs released in the set, but that's not the art's fault. It's just because there are so many incredible cards released right after this that we're about to dive into. So it's just unfortunate that in the binder it sits, right next to this Team Rocket's Moltres EX by Akira Igawa. This card right here by this like modern master of the TCG who needs no introduction, right? Akira Igawa. At this point, we could do a ranking video just on her cards. And I'll just run a slideshow off to the side here, considering all of her cards are so iconic and everybody's going to have their own favorite, right? I think there are a lot of people with Akira Igawa binders, but I really love this Moltres for the way that it deviates from her normal style in her cards. So it kind of it's hidden back there, but it showcases more of a cityscape instead of like the typical just like atmospheric background style she usually does. And I think this card blends the stylistic requirements necessary for the set design, like of Destined Rivals, with like her iconic style. So we'll talk about that over the next couple cards. And honestly, I think this is probably like the best Moltres card that exists. Considering there's been so much focus when we get these alt arts and illustration rares and special illustration rares on Galarian Moltres, I think this is the best just pure bog standard Moltres card that is out there, absent vintage nostalgia. I think this card illustrates something that's pretty hard to articulate or demonstrate when I'm doing these videos or talking about these Pokemon card artists, which is that there's always a set direction and like a style guide given to the artists by the Pokemon company when they're planning out a particular release, right? I mean, especially a set like Destined Rivals or, Glory of Team Rocket, which is the Japanese set. It's like they're intended to be very thematically integrated. So it's not just like, oh, we love these artists, so let's, let them run wild and do art. No, it's a collaborative process between the artist and the company who like offer feedback and they request revisions of cards and stuff like that, right? So it's kind of easy to lose sight sometimes when discussing these cards as artwork that these are essentially hired commissioned artists to get whose job is to get a specific design intention across, right? Like obviously they have freedom and flexibility, but there are rules, and I love that about art. I hate the phrase "think outside the box." I think true creativity lives inside the box, optimizing what's inside the box, right? And like this card, it's not fine art. This is illustration art, which is a wholly separate category of art, intended for commercial purposes. And I like seeing the fine art techniques or the voice of the artist that can shine through in the illustration art landscape. That's always been fascinating to me. So the challenge then, right, in the Pokemon world is for an artist to like let their voice and their style shine through while also integrating with the wider set or doing what the company desires of them. And I don't think anyone in this set does it better than Akira Yagawa. Like there are cards I might like more in the set, but I don't think there are any that keep the voice of the artist while also like amplifying the voice of the set, right? If that makes sense. It's a fantastic card that's overthinking it a bit, I guess, as far as, the Pokemon art card landscape, but just Akira Gawa, she really is going to be one of the, you know, best artists of all time in the TCG, and this card is just a great addition to her body of work. So I hate to compare artwork in a set directly against each other. Like that's not the intention of this particular video, right? I don't want to rank them or anything, but I don't think I'm reaching too far when I kind of speculate here or assume that this Ho-Oh and the Moltres were sort of meant to be like a good and evil counterpart to each other, right? For the overall set layout and design and stuff. So, like as you can see, it's a much more typical like clean illustration style as far as the main figures go between Ethan and Ho here, instead of like the stylized Moltres we got from Igawa. But I really, really like this card, and I think the perspective is great, right? I think it's obviously intended to be a reference to the Silver Tempest Lugia, you know. Uh, I think that's by design, but like Itsushi Furusawa, the artist, is another artist who got his start in the 2018 Illustration Grand Prix, like a couple other artists in this set, and received a semi-finalist award there for like a Charizard illustration, right? And since then, he's illustrated some pretty iconic cards, right? Like the Sleepy Dragonite, the Vaporeon Black Star promo, the Lucario SIR for Mega Evolutions, which that's jumping ahead a little bit, but I mean, I'm going to gush about that card quite a bit when we get to the Mega Evolutions art review. And altogether, like, I really just can't wait to see what this artist continues to come out with because, as you can see, like, from the slideshow here, he's illustrated some, like, absolutely incredible cards, right? And this comic book illustration style really lends itself to the TCG, and there aren't a lot of. I hope he explores that more. But this Ho-Oh is beautiful, right? I mean, look at the play of colors and the clouds behind and just just great composition. This is, you know, a card where again that use of perspective illustrates that like, Ho is majestic and we are looking up in wonder at Ho just like Ethan is. And that's a intentional design choice by the artist that sells the story of the card we're looking at. I think that's fun to pay attention to and acknowledge in these cards. All right, here it is. Here is the, chase card of the set, right? The Team Rockets Mewtwo EX from artist Iwamoto Zero Go, who is a very new artist to the TCG with this Mewtwo being their first major card. They did an EX and a Reshiram like rare or whatever before this, but I won't reference like too much of their work outside of Pokemon just because on their website it says, do not reuse my art. And I'm not sure if that means like in this capacity or just don't steal my art. But either way, go check their Twitter or their website out because they've done like quite a lot of book cover illustrations, and they've got their own art book that you can see here. But since this Mewtwo, they've also illustrated like the Zoroark from White Flare, another amazing card that has, sort of the same vibe, right, as this Mewtwo. Again, we've talked a lot about perspective in this video. I really love the perspective here with Giovanni in the foreground putting himself like in equal size and importance to Mewtwo. That is really indicative of the character of Giovanni that we all know and Mewtwo, right? And much different, right, than the Giovanni and the Meowth that we looked at earlier. So it's just, a great iconic Team Rocket card here that is really going to stand the test of time. I think that this is one of the things I appreciate most about how the TCG is run from an art direction perspective, right? Is that this card was always going to be the center point of any modern Team Rocket set they put out, right? Like it was part of the design of the set to be like, hey, we're gonna have a killer Mewtwo card that everybody's gonna want, right? And they trusted who is essentially just this brand new freelance artist with that work. And like I said, in this instance, I think Iwamoto Zero Go like just knocked it out of the park. Looking forward to more cards from them. So you think that was risky from the Pokemon Company to pick an artist with only a couple cards under their belt for the Mewtwo? Well, this Cynthia's Garchomp from artist Hiko Kim is the very first card that Hiko Kim has done. A Korean illustrator. They've, since done a couple other cards like the Cobalion Rare from Black Bolt. But what a way to come out of the gate with this! This Cynthia's Garchomp is your very first card. I don't think there's a bad thing about it. I don't. I think like the posing is super dynamic. There's just this super kinetic energy to it. Like the colors are great, the composition is great, the background is fantastic. Yeah, I think there's a reason, right, that it's right behind the Mewtwo in terms of value from Destined Rivals, and I just think it's a big part of what makes this set just so iconic in the Scarlet and Violet era, right? This just banger after banger after banger in this set, and this is one of them for sure. So like this artist's concept art and like anime style, it just really, really translates well into Pokemon or Pokemon cards rather. And I hope we get some more like this from them in the future. I don't know that we'll get too many trainer Pokemon cards again anytime soon, but what a fantastic card. So again, this is a big set, so lots of new artists, but this Team Rocket's Nidoking is by another newish artist, Uninori. They've done some like super amazing work with a really small resume. They like initially got their start submitting to the illustration contests, like many artists in this set so far, and they like have said before that they're like primarily influenced by Pokemon artists like Ken Sugimori or Kagamaru Himeno, just these absolute titans of Pokemon art, right? But also Akira Toriyama and like specifically like 90s manga or anime like Dragon Ball. And, you can see that here, or at least I think I can. I think the 90s anime influence is like super apparent here with the Nidoking, right? It's again one of the unsung heroes of the set. I don't think it has any business being as good as it is, this card. It really ties the Team Rocket theme back to the early sets to me, right? And it's just this great action shot of Nidoking, who has like, to be honest, like they've had a ton of great cards in the TCG. Nidoking has, right? But like for example, contrast this with that Tranquil like Nidoking illustration rare from 151, and I think this like super action packed manga panel of a card really shows off like the majesty and the power of Nidoking well, as opposed to just the majesty and the tranquility of, King of the Forest Nidoking, like that 151 card. So from this artist, we've talked about some of their previous cards before, like that awesome Flapple or the Raging Bolt from Prismatic. So they also have done since this card the Crocodile from Black Bolt. But you know, also lots of great cards from Pokemon Pocket, man. I mean, the the Nidoking here is one of my favorite cards in the set. and I would have recommended it as like a kind of undervalued card, but, you know, everything in Destined Rivals is not undervalued anymore. All the cards are super expensive, so just a great card. And again, like a third look at Giovanni with one of his Pokemon, different than the Meowth, different than the Mewtwo. Really cool. So we've talked about in the art reviews that a lot of these artists have like get their start as fan artists, which I think is just awesome, right? I mean, I love Pokemon for that reason. So many of the artists who ultimately like get cards put in the legwork and just demonstrated like a pure love for Pokemon by doing fan art for years. And this artist Kochi, I believe, is how they pronounce their, you know, artist name there. Not Kochi 8i, but I think it's Kochi I. Uh, but this Crobat was their first like major IR or SIR or whatever. And like they've since done like the Tranquil from Black Bolt and this like super great Tatsugiri and Pokemon Pocket. But other cards they've done, like I really love the common Raichu they did for Temporal Forces. But I think this Crobat is again, not to sound like a broken record, but one of the best cards in the set. It's just really pleasing to look at. It's super colorful. It's claustrophobic, like exactly like a swarm of bats coming at you out of a cave, which I really love. So the artist mentions like Disney movies like Tarzan and A Bug's Life as influences, and I don't really see that in too many of their cards so far, but I do really love their like playful cartoon style. You can really see it in this one. Great colors. So next up, we have the Arvin's Mabosstiff EX, and I absolutely love this card. I love the artist. I've talked about it before, but like the storyline of Arvin and Mabosstiff was one of my favorite things in the Scarlet and Violet games. So like the glow of the lantern here and like the shadows at play on the wall, just like look how good it's like expertly done, right? And I don't know if it'll show up too well on screen. You can kind of see it like here where Lobostiff is sitting on the cave floor. But the watercolor paper texture that this artist uses, because I'm almost positive that this artist is not a digital artist, that they are actually painting these and then scanning them. So I think you can see the watercolor paper texture. It just really pushes the card to another level for me. So not to mention, this was one of the last cards I needed to complete the master set, so, like, it occupied a lot of my time trying to hunt it down, so, I got to pay a lot of attention to it, really trying to find it, but, yeah, Yuriko Akase, the artist, is they're probably maybe more well known in Japan. I don't know. I can't tell if it's like an indie manga or not, but they've got this pretty cool like 500-page, fully conventionally illustrated, like not digital, right? It's actually colored in watercolor. It's a space opera manga called Sazen and Comet Girl, and they're currently illustrating another manga called Nightmare Busters. So like you can see from these manga pages how their style translates in a very like unique way to the world of Pokemon, right? You can see it like most directly in the Alolan Executor SIR from Surging Sparks that they also did, which, obviously we've talked about. We love that card. But the cards they illustrate are like these wonderful little like slice of life scenes, like here, or they're hand illustrated. They're very clean. They're very colorful. Just absolutely an artist that I have my eye on in the Pokemon space, and like every new set, I hope for a card from them, similar to Nakamori upon. So this Ethan's Adventure is from another, what I guess what I'd call a new artist. They have less than 24 cards to their name, which is crazy to say. I'm sure that for any artist who wanted to be a Pokemon illustrator, having almost 24 Pokemon cards has got to be like a dream come true, right? But yeah, this is from artist Korea. It's it's one of the unsung heroes of the set, right? It was a chase for a few people in the comments when we did this master set. I actually think the best work this artist has done in Pokemon so far was actually, unfortunately, a card from Pokemon Pocket, the Floragato. I wish that card was real. Trainer cards where, multiple Pokemon are present, those are always cool, like this card here, but otherwise, honestly, this artist is kind of a bit of an enigma. I can't find any socials. I can't find any website They just do Pokemon cards and that's it, you know. So like the Probo Pass from Twilight Masquerade, after this, the Heatmore from White Flare, they're also by the same artist. And, you know, I think it's cool that in most of their cards there are multiple Pokemon to hunt for or see in the background and stuff. So this is a cute card, you know. I won't say it's one of my favorite in the set, but it is a good one. So another new one here with the Team Rocket's Ariana, another new artist rather from artist Yoshioka. There you can kind of, if you research them a little bit, their freelance work and their style, it carries over especially well to this Ariana, or to the trainer Pokemon SIR style, right? That the TCG has established, right? So their other work, like their non Pokemon work, it's got this like vaguely like James Jean esque feel to it, you know, who's another fantastic artist, just not in the Pokemon space, just a fine artist at this point, but like very fairy tale, very ethereal. You know, I think you can get a glimpse of that here, especially with the background, but it's also apparent in some of their other cards, like the Unpheasant from Black Bolt. Like that's a super fairy tale card. Or like their very first card, the uncommon, the Nine Tails from Obsidian Flames, right? You can kind of see that's very, very like dreamy storybook. You know, Yoshioka the artist, they've released at least one art book from what I can find, and I think this is like one artist who, like, if given the right assignment, is gonna surprise everyone in the future. Like they're gonna have like a very beautifully illustrated major chase card in the future if just given the chance. All right, wrapping up the mainline set, but we do have some extras after this, so stick around. But we've got the Team Rockets Giovanni, the final SIR in the set. This is from artist Koraguchi, or KRGC, is how they sign the cards. But like quick little funny story about this artist. And again, this is skipping ahead a little bit, but whatever. They also did the Boldor from White Flare. And when I was hunting that set, I was at a card show with my son, who's about to turn 4, and we I mean we looked at over like 100 tables of singles and stuff together, right? He and I just walking through, and for some reason, the Boldor, he just like stopped and he just pointed at it and said, "Daddy, I want that card." You know, so now he has a Boldor illustration rare in like a little mag case that he carries all around the house with him. And, you know, it's going to be very heavily played with, but I am, you know, 100% looking forward to like saving that card, keeping it safe for him, and, you know, giving it to him later on when he's older. And I'll always associate this artist with like that happy memory, right? So that's pretty cool. I don't think it's any surprise that like this Giovanni is a desirable card, right? I mean, I don't know. I think it gives off like regular full art vibes as opposed to special illustration rare vibes. But you know, I guess like what I mean is like it may not artistically stand out too much. It is just a collection of, you know, portraits essentially, but it does represent the Team Rocket set very well, and I think it's necessary to be a part of the set, if that makes sense. So this same artist has done the Infernape from Twilight Masquerade, if that gives you an idea of like the other type of artwork they've produced before, and you know how maybe their style could have been used to greater effect on another assignment for this particular set. But if you play Pokemon Pocket, you'll also like, you know, likely recognize them from like the awesome Mewtwo promo from the early days of the game. Like I wish that card was real, but you should check out their Twitter. They have like a, or their X or whatever. They have a great selection of like some horror inspired but also cute anime art. So I think that's where the resume got them this assignment. But yeah, pretty cool card. So a little bit of extra credit here. We've got the Wobbuffet, Team Rocket's Wobbuffet ETB promo from artist Saboteri, another artist who was an illustration contest 2022 entrant with a pretty cool Caesar. And they've gone on to illustrate some great cards in the TCG. I actually think maybe coming up this year, they'll be the one that has the Connecting Art series. I'm not sure yet. But my favorite cards of theirs, they've done a few that we've talked about before, are like the Poltergeist and the Sinister combo, Obviously, the Squirtle from Stellar Crown is probably going to be their most popular card so far. Everyone loves that one. Great storytelling in it. But yeah, this Wobbuffet and the Team Rocket hideout, it's a great promo card for the set, right? I love the Fish Eye Lens look. Another cool scene of of a Pokemon, at least this time actually in the hideout, right? This one fits with Team Rocket. So lots of little cameos of other Pokemon in there. Just a good card. And another wonderful promo here associated with Destined Rivals, not part of it, but whatever. It's the Marnie's Morpeko here by artist Susumu Maeda. And it's just we spent a good time there at mangaka who we talked about in the Journey Together video, so feel free to check that out for more details on the artist. But this Morpeko is like a fantastic addition to an already really good resume. They did like two of the best like connected art cards, and they did the chase card for Journey Together. I mean, really nice card here. Again, great perspective, nice mix of realistic illustration with anime illustration, which is, not really my favorite combo in any type of media, whether it's Pokemon cards or like movies or whatever. But that background is fantastic. Cute scene, good card. And we've got the final one we're going to take a look at here with Stevens Beldam, the promo card from HNCL, or Hungry Clicker, I think is what that username means or whatever. But yeah, they're a very experienced artist when it comes to full art trainers, right? So they're kind of a natural fit for this type of card. They're honestly their best work is probably the first card they ever did, which is the Lucario Crown Zenith promo. That card's incredible. But they also did like the Cobalion and Black Bolt, stuff like that. And they contribute really well. Like, I love the Happy Little Beldam here. This is a great little side addition to the set. So, nice looking card.
So there you have it. Just a really wonderful collection of cards here. Let's see if we can take a look at them in the binder really quick so you can see them all together. If you haven't seen the master set review video, obviously you can take a closer look at them there as well. But yeah, there we go. First try. Just opens up to a really, really beautiful collection of illustration rares. And I know we don't review them in this type of video, but even the full arts look good, right? I mean, this is just a great set of cards here. And thank you all so much for, asking me where the next art deep dive video is. This really is one of my favorite types of videos to do. And it takes a long time, but thank you for the encouragement, especially to a bunch of the Master Set Club members, channel members. I know a lot of you have been looking forward to this one, so thank you very much. We will continue the series with Black Bolt and White Flare, and then eventually Mega Evolutions. Hopefully, I'll find a way to not ramble on too much or make the Black Bolt White Flare video, 4 hours long. So thank you all very much, and I will catch you in the next one.